Hi all, welcome to the channel, welcome to the workshop. Today I've got the next 11 stages of the Megazord. Now, it looks to be quite exciting. I've had a quick flick through. It looks like we're doing quite a lot with the torso of the T-Rex. We're doing a little bit of work to the saber-toothed tiger, and I believe we're even doing some work to the pterodactyl. So, let's get into it. Let's get building.
Welcome to the workshop, tools in the light. Screws and glue, they're holding it tight. Piece by piece, it's a builder's delight. Making dreams in the still of the night. Let's get into it, let's get building now. Put it all together, I'll show you how. Screw by screw and a little glue too. Welcome to the workshop, it's waiting for you.
Right, first we're going to kick off with is I got a letter saying we weren't going to get our free gift, or I wasn't going to get my free gift, but I found this in the box. So we've got a USB power bank. Now, I'm not going to go too much into it, because if you've seen the Knight Rider build, you might see it looks a little bit familiar. So they're exactly the same thing, just with a different print on the front. So simple enough, USB, get you out of trouble. USB charging battery pack. I don't think it's the most powerful, but you might get a charge out of your phone for it. So always good, always handy to have. Next thing, I had this box. Now this is for the premium base. And I got all these bits. Have no instructions. However, when I had a quick look through of all the parts we have, now we've got several different types of screws, which might be a bit confusing. But this is our base. And as far as I can see, the battery box is going to go in there. This is going to go onto here, like that. That's then going to sit under there like that. And then on the back, we've got one of these that's shorter. That's going to sit there. And then you've got these that are going to go all around there. So that's what I'm going to do, because they're not like parts floating around like this. And I'm going to try and work out which screws I'm using as I do it. And again, because I don't have instructions, order of operations might be a little bit off. But I'm going to start off with this battery box going into this part. Now, I'm assuming as there's a big gap there, that that's going to be going out there. So that's what I'm going to do. Two of these holes line up, as you can see. And they look like they've got a bit of a chamfer on those. So I did see some chamfered screws in here. They look to be all the same. We've got some flange screws, quite a few flange screws, but these are the ones that I'm sort of interested in. So we've got a couple, not three of those, and that's what I reckon would go in here, because it's the only one that sort of makes sense that it would go in there and they'd be flat. And obviously we've got several others, a lot more of the others. So that's what I'm going to do. So let's see whether that even fits in there. Seemed to fit in there quite well. So that's what I'm going with. And so I'm just putting that cable out there because we got that big hole there. So I'm assuming that's what that's for. I'm then going to have this piece that's going to sit on there. That looks like we've got another screw that will go in there. It's not going to be the flanged one, so I'm going to go one of these. Not actually sure why we'd need the flanged ones at the minute. Okay, going to need a small screwdriver for that one. That's in there like that. I think I'm probably going to use the flanged ones. Yeah, going to use the flanged screws for this piece. Now, I don't see that it's going to matter which way it goes in, as long as the screw holes line up, because we don't have a front and a back to this, and as far as I can see, there is no difference with the whole lot, front and back wise. So I'll move those ones out one side, and I'll get the flange screws in for this one. You know what I have missed? Putting that in there. So that would be under that battery box. I told you order of operations may not be correct. But yeah, certainly no instructions in the box. So right, so that's going to have to go there first. And I think I'm going to use one of the same screws. No, it won't be one of those, I don't think. I think it would be more likely to be one of these. So just put that like so. So that's the first step. Next step will be putting this in. Now, I don't know which way round it would go, but I'm putting it so the cable is closest to that opening. Right, so with that in like that now, I'm going to place that like that. Now, I believe it's going to be these flanged screws that's going to hold this in place. Now, I hadn't realised that this base was raised up, but clearly with these little stands it must be. Right, so with that in there, we're just going to take these ones and we're going to screw those in from the other side through all of these 6 holes. We're going to use these non-flange screws. Just make sure they're sat in there all correctly, which they are. So we've got those legs on our premium base, and obviously we have this hole in the middle now, which is going to be obviously the battery cover, because this will all light up eventually. Although I can't see any holes that will come to the surface at the minute, so maybe we're building another structure on top of this that will actually light up, but I don't know, because I know in one of the pictures we had a big logo here, so maybe there is something that goes on top of here, and maybe the wire actually comes out of this gap. I don't know, but we shall see. But that's how I've done it at the moment, and with no instructions, it was a pretty good guess, I think, so we'll leave it as that. Right, and with the base done, we'll move on to issue 31. And we have Tyrannosaurus Rex, Dinosaur's right arm. Now, if you remember, towards the end of the last stage, we were building the arm, and we obviously built one fully arm, and then we've now got this one to finish it off as well. And again, just give you a flick through the magazine, but you do get one with every stage of the build. And obviously, really nice, colourful, very informative, and still part of your subscription. Right, so that's how our T-Rex arm is currently looking. Obviously, we built this one up last time, so let's get this one to look the same. So first things first, we're just going to put the side panels on. This one first. They will only easily fit on one way, so you soon know whether you've got it the wrong way around. So just going to push those together like that. And then we need to take this piece. We need to take our hinge. That's just going to go and sit in like so. And then on this side, we need to put 4 of the silver screws and the little spring washers that we've got here. So screw and a spring washer just in there. And then we'll just put the last one in, like so. And then taking our arm, it's just going to sit over the top of this. We had that flat slot before, so just need to make sure that lines up like so. Then this one, we've got this lug that's going to go into that hole. Line those 2 parts up like so. And then we've got the black screw here to secure it in place. Now, it's called a PB screw, but as I've demonstrated before, that means absolutely nothing because we seem to have different PB screws throughout the build. But that is the T-Rex arm done. Now, we do have one other piece that we need, which is this piece. And if you remember, I left it on the sprue so it wouldn't get lost. So I'm just going to take that off and place that in like so. And that is all to do in that stage. So moving on to issue 32, and you can see we're still working on the T-Rex, and we've got the torso that we're starting on. It looks like we're going to be getting some of the electronics as well. Again, just a quick flick through. Again, let me know if doing it in this way works for you. So each individual issue, and then I build it, or whether you want to look through all the magazines right at the beginning and then I build. Because obviously, at the minute, we're obviously doing quite a lot with the T-Rex and the saber-tooth tiger today. We could obviously get rid of all the magazines in one go and then just build. So let me know. So here are our T-Rex parts. I think everything here is plastic, but you could imagine how heavy this thing would be if we had a lot of metal. That's a metal part. It looks to be some sort of hinge rod or something like that. So the first thing we're going to be doing is taking the front piece here, and we've got these 2 red parts, and they're just going to sit in here. Try and work out how. Right, so we've got 2 little silver tabs. Got 2 little silver tabs just in here. They're going to go into this little recess. I don't think they're left and right, but we shall find out if they don't fit properly. But basically, we want that pushed in so it's flush. So we've got those 2 silver tabs in. And we've got that pushed in like that. Same for this side. Just take a little bit of force to get it pushed in. But once it's in, it will look like that. I'm then going to take this piece and this piece, and with it this way around, We're going to put that in like that. And then taking our smaller bar, that's going to go in there, push all the way through. Now, might just need something to push that down with. Just going to use a pair of pliers. Just make sure that's all the way in. Like that. So we have that hinge mechanism. This is then going to slot in like that. And we're going to secure that on the back with a PB screw. Now it looks like we've only got one type of screw in this build pack, or this issue. And again, I'll probably interchange whether I use black screw, PB screw, silver screw, just depending on how I feel at the time. As I say, PB doesn't seem to mean anything with this build. And with that in, we need to take this piece, and that's just going to slot in there. And again, one of these black screws will secure that in place. Just realised that I hadn't turned my other studio light on, so hopefully you can see what I'm doing a little bit better now. Next we need this piece. Now, interestingly enough, the instructions seem to show this as a silver piece, and then later on they seem to show it as a black piece. So, how to confuse someone. Right, so we're going to need this, but they're not showing which way around it goes. I'm assuming as the hole is there, yes. So this cable is going to go through that hole. Sometimes with this build I find you have to read ahead just to see where things go. It's not always obvious in the first instruction they show you. So that's going to sit there, and again, two of the black screws, or PB screws, will hold that in place. So much easier when they have these build packs with only one type of screw. So we get two of those in, like that. Again, you don't want to do these too tight because you'll damage the circuit board. You want it just enough that the circuit board doesn't wobble around. Like that. Perfect. And with that in there, we're going to put that just in there. Now, interesting enough, that's got a lot of wiggle room. But we need to put that in there and secure it with this bar. So let's do that. I'm assuming that once this is all together, that wiggle will be taken out by something else. Again, just going to leave that there and then push it in the rest of the way. The end of this does obviously have some striations, which is obviously designed to hold it in place. Just want to make sure that it is pushed fully in, so it's not stuck out either end. But that is how that is looking, and that's all to do in that stage. So, issue 33. And we're still working on the T-Rex torso, as you can see. It looks like we're actually mounting the arms. And we do have a battery as well. Now, interesting enough with this pack, actually, I haven't seen a separate battery in the box like we've had previously. So it'd be interesting to know whether the battery I've got is any good. Right, so we've only got a couple of parts in this one, but obviously we will need the parts from the previous issues. Battery from the box, or from the pack, I should say. There was no spare battery, as I said, so let's bring over Mike's Test Circuit Pro, and let's just have a quick look. There you go. So that one is registering absolutely fine. So, perfect. brilliant item to have on your workbench, this one. So if you don't have one yet, check out the links below. You can find Mike's website and go get one for yourself. Just takes out the ambiguity whether that battery is any good or not, because now I know it is absolutely fine and I can continue building this with no issues whatsoever. Right, so we have our torso piece looking like this. We need to take our arms. They're going to sit just in here like that, and then we need 4 of the silver screws and the little washers like we did when we assembled the shoulder. So just lining that one up. And these silver screws are PWM screws, if you really wanted to know. Right. Last one going in for this arm. Obviously, you want to make sure these are all nice and tight. Just a reminder that I haven't put these ones in oil. Normally, I've said to you before, when screwing into metal, put them in oil. Well, this hinge, it actually is a threaded hole, so you're not cutting a thread or anything. So this one you really do not need to put in oil, but you want to make sure that's nice and tight. So I've got that in there like that. I'm going to do the exact same thing for this side. Now obviously there is a bit of flex in this torso, so if your screwdriver is a little bit long, you can wiggle it around a little bit. Obviously you don't want to put too much strain on it, otherwise you'll break it. I would have thought that this frame section would have been a good item to have as a metal item, just for some structure, a bit more rigidity. But we've got that in there like so. We're then going to take this piece and it's going to attach where we've got 2 holes just here. We've got 2 holes in the bottom of that. So we're going to sit down like this and sit in just like that. I think obviously that's going to be out the front, so we'll do it this way around. We'll have that in there like that, and we've got 2 of the PB screws or black screws, and you can see these are shorter PB screws than what we were using a moment ago. And then this one just in here. So that's the front part of our T-Rex. Looking very good. Now, the last thing we need to do, we don't need to do anything with it at this stage, but we do have our battery and we do need to wrap it. So again, just wrap this material around the battery, like so. And that's all to do in that stage. So, issue 34. Certainly getting through these build packs, aren't we? So, again, still doing more to the torso. We've got our electronic board this time. Just putting that in there. Doesn't look like we're doing much with the other part of the torso. Right, so these are our parts. We have this part of the torso, which is obviously the back side of the torso. But we're not doing anything with that on this particular stage. We've got these 2 little bits in a sprue. We're not doing anything with those this time around. All we are doing is taking our circuit board and this bit of black plastic, and we're just mounting it this way around. And we're going to use 2 of these black screws. 1 and 2. Again, not too tight, but you don't want it flapping around like that. So, and then we've got our battery. I did notice actually floating around earlier in the battery box, we did have this little leaflet sat with it. It basically just says product contains batteries that have a specific life cycle. Charge the batteries for 1 hour when you receive them by connecting it to an electronic circuit of one of the Megazord's heads using a USB cable. Also, recharge the battery before assembly if it has been 2 to 3 months since the last charge. To ensure optimal performance and durability, it's important to follow maintenance instructions provided. So we've got a little bit of information there, and obviously you can pause it and read it if you want to. but these should hold charge for a reasonable amount of time, realistically. But you can imagine, yeah, if you left it 2 or 3 months, and I've probably left one of the heads at least 3 months now. When did we start this? From when we actually started, what was it? The saber-tooth tiger was the first one, wasn't it? So we've just got this going in here. Making sure it goes the correct way around. So we've got our battery in there. And then the battery is going to sit in this little recess. Like that. And then this needs to be connected to the IR sensor. The IR sensor is going to go into this one. Again, we'll only go in one way around. Can't get it going at all. So get that one pushed in like that. And that's all we're doing with that. We're just connecting it up and we're leaving it at that stage. So that moves on to issue 35. It looks like we're mounting the head. So exciting times. Practically going to have half a T-Rex at the end of this stage. Looks pretty good. So for the last stage, we have our T-Rex head. I'll leave that one just there for the moment. So small pack of parts in this one. First thing I'm going to be doing is taking this green piece. Now this is actually a translucent piece. If I just get my torch, you can see that. I do like how they're hiding the IR sensors, because that's exactly what this is going to be doing. And it's going to go over the top of this IR sensor here. Right, before that goes in, it's got a little bit of waste from when it was obviously manufactured. So I'm just going to file it off that edge, because that's preventing it from going in at the moment. Right, let's see whether that will fit in there now. Perfect. So you can push that all the way in. It is just a push fit. So we've got that in there like so. Going to put that to one side for a second and take this piece and this piece, and that's just going to sit in like so. And we have a PB screw to secure that in place. Now I'm assuming that the PB screw is going to be one of the black screws that we have. We seem to have several here. So let's try and work out what these screws actually are. Right, we're going to have the silver ones, which are the PWM screws again. That seems to be fairly consistent with those ones. But we do have 2 types of black screws in here. 3 types of black screws, actually. So we've got the washers, which will go with the PWM screws. So we'll put those over there. You have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of those screws. 1, 2, 3, 4 of those ones, and 3 of the flange screws. So that means those are PWB. We have PB. So these small ones are PB, and then we have these ones that are larger that are KB screws. So in this case, the PB screws are the very tiny ones that we have. So using one of the PB screws, which is the smaller screws that we have here, that's just going to secure this in place. Right, just like that. And then we need to take our hinge. That's just going to sit underneath there like that. And as we've done before, we've got these PWM screws with the flange, with the spring washer. Just put the spring washer on the screw, and then we get this one secured from this way. And we've got 4 of those to go in, so I'll get those done. So last one just going in there. And that's what that is looking like. And now the exciting point where we actually mount the head. So the head is going to be mounted just like that. We have 2 PWB screws, which are these flange screws, to hold that in place. Now, I knew this was going to be big, but when you get the head on a piece of bodywork like this, you realise like just how massive this thing's going to be. And that's before we even attach it to the arm section. Right, just get these in, make sure they're nice and tight. Now they are only going in plastic, so you don't want to over tighten them, because what will happen is you'll crack the plastic that it's going into. And with that in there, I'm going to take this section. They haven't told us what we're doing with the cable yet. So I'm trying to work out where that possibly can go. What I'm going to do, because this front section opens, I'm going to put it up in there for a minute. And that's going to attach like so. Now, at the minute, the only thing sort of holding that together is going to be this base plate. So that base plate's going to go on there. And we've got the KB screws to hold that together, which are these larger screws. We've got 4 of those to go in. Again, just going into plastic, so don't over tighten them. So 4 of those in there. And with his chest cavity open, we do have our battery box and our battery and our circuit board. We need to connect our wires up. It's still not telling me where this goes. Although, actually, I've just worked it out where it goes. It goes at the back there. You can see the holes at the back for the connections and the button. So let's get these plugged in. Again, they're just going to go in one way round. That's one. And the second one plugged in, like so. Now, for some reason, we've been given 2 power buttons, in case you lose one. But that's going to sit at the back. You'll see it's going to fill in this little gap here. I'm just going to use my tweezers to try and get it down there. And just get it pushed into place. Like that. Then we have this that's going to sit down. So look, it's going to be this way. So the power button is down here, and we've got the charging port just there. And we've got these 2 holes that's going to sit over the top of the lugs and screw it in place. Obviously, just try not to trap the battery cable there. So I'm just pulling that out of the way. So that's going to go and sit down over those 2 lugs. And then we have the PB screws, which are these smaller screws, to hold that in place. Right, just going to do a quick test. So press the button, and we have the lights lighting up like that. Looking absolutely fantastic. Let's just shut the chest cavity there. But that is looking absolutely fantastic. I mean, look at the size of it. I mean, it's amazing. Right, I think that is all we're doing for the T-Rex. I think the next bit we're doing is we're moving on to the saber-toothed tiger. But what a way to end the T-Rex at the moment. That looks amazing. Keep using the word amazing a lot, but that does look absolutely amazing. And we'll see, we can pop that down like that. And if the original model is anything to go by, what will happen is these arms will fold sort of like that. That will close up, and obviously we'll have the Megazord looking like that. Obviously we'll have the pterodactyl that sits over the front like that. But does look really, really good. Right, so we'll put him to one side, and as I say, I think we're moving on to the saber-toothed tiger now. Right, issue 36. Oh, we are still doing something with the T-Rex. I saw yellow parts, assuming we were doing the saber-toothed tiger. But it looks like we're doing the shoulder parts. And then we do have some yellow bits left over, so I think that is still saber-toothed tiger. So you've got some bits there, how it all works. So let's go through this magazine. Oh, and we've obviously got the remote control testing as well, which I haven't yet done, which I'll do that in just a second at the end of this stage. So these are the parts we have in this one. As I say, not done with the T-Rex yet, but I just saw this and I assumed it was Sabertooth, and I still think that is part Sabertooth, to be fair. So obviously mixing it up a little bit with their Zords. We're going to start off with this piece and this piece. Now we do have two of these and they look identical. I don't think they're marked in any way, shape or form to say that they go one way or the other. And that's going to sit in like that. Going to bring our T-Rex over, and looks like we're going to work on this side first. Taking this piece, we've got these two lugs here. We're just going to slot those like that. And we're going to use two PB screws to hold that in place. Now we've got some long PB screws in this one, black screws. And we've got two holes just here. We'll just notice that it is marked as an R, so you do know you've got the right hand side. But it is also fairly obvious that you've got the correct side, because it will only fit on one way and they'll only line up one way. So two PV screws like that. And again, these are also marked left and right. So the right hand side one obviously only aligns to this. And that's going to push in at the back there. So it goes in all the way and finishes flush like so. We're going to do the exact same thing for this side. So taking this piece, popping it in like so, bring it over T-Rex. That's going to slot on there. That's then going to slot together like so. Make sure that's fully pushed together. Then we've got two PB screws into the same holes we did before. So just holding that together, screw it together. And the other one. And then we have the cover. So it's going to push in like that. And that is it for the assembly of that one. Right, so there is a bit of a trick to this, it looks like. So you push on the back of here, and you can see it all flexing. That means you can open up this front piece a lot easier. So where that little clip we have there, you can see it all flexes. Now, I don't know how good that's going to be. Certainly not sure that I like bits of plastic flexing when you got obviously quite a heavy head on there, but that's apparently how you have to do it. And then the head will rotate down all the way like so. And then step 3, it says step 3 is that, and then step 4 is that, but personally I would say it's the other way around, because that's the last thing you see it do. But that is the Megazord, looking absolutely brilliant. So I don't know if there's any charge in the Megazord head. There probably isn't. Or very dim, but we'll leave that for now. So what I will do is just open this back up. We get the T-Rex out. We need to fold those back. Push that back shut. I'll find the remote control. And the T-Rex is controlled by 4, 5, and 6. So 4 is just solid, as you can see. 5 makes it flash, 6 turns it off. And remember, off is not off on this. You do have to press the button at the back to make sure it's fully off. But that looks absolutely fantastic. So now we'll leave him to one side, because now I do believe we are moving fully onto the saber-toothed tiger. So, issue 37. Saber-toothed tiger, Dinozord's neck. So it looks like we need to grab our head straight away. And as you can see, we've got the bits that we had from the previous issue. Right, so we're going to kick off this issue by using all the parts from the previous issue. So we have this piece. We have this little metal piece. It's actually got a threaded insert. And that's going to slot just in like so. Now, I can probably see where this is going. That's going to open up this once it's in the saber-tooth's neck, meaning that it won't come out. We need a silver screw on these big ones. We need to put one of these spring washers on it, like so. And then this screw is going to go into here and then screw itself into that piece there. So we only need to partially tighten that just to get it to not fall out. This is then going to sit into the saber-tooth's neck and this way around. So we're going to push that in, like so. And you just need to gently tighten this, just so that the head is firm. Now, you can see I'm not really putting any pressure into that, turning that, so it's obviously not doing much at the moment in pulling that tight. Right, so at that point, you can see that it's a little bit more of a struggle to pull the screwdriver around. So that's where it's going to be starting to spread the plastic out. And if you over tighten this, what you'd do is snap that plastic. And obviously, saber-tooth tiger's head is got a fair bit of weight to it, so you do want to make sure that hopefully it's not going to be flopping around. I think that's fairly good. I think just one more turn. So I think we're all good there. Managed to turn the head on. Right, so with that in place, we're going to turn our attention to this piece. And we have this hinge section. And as you can see, we've got a hexagonal hole there. We're just going to push that in there. Just make sure it's pushed all the way through, like so. And then we have this piece that's going to sit just in there like so. And we've got a PB screw to hold that in place. That's going to be one of the black screws. Like that. And just check how that head sits. And you can see I can pretty much position that where I want, and it's not flopping down. So that is absolutely perfect. Obviously at this stage, you can still just about adjust that screw if you need to. But I think that is absolutely perfect. Right, so with all the last stage parts out the way, we're now going to have a look at the new stage parts. And we're going to need this piece. And that's just going to sit over the top of here, like that. Lining up these 4 lugs. Flipping it over. And we've got 4 PB screws to hold that in place. Now again, they're going to be the black screws that are in here. 1, 2, 3. And finally, the 4th one going in there. We have this little black detail. And that's going to sit on here in that hole. So pushed in like so. And then over the top of this, we have this piece to hide all those screw holes. And that's just a push fit. Looking at the so. We're then going to take this piece and this piece and move it this way around. We have this one going in here, going over those 2 lugs like that. And again, 2 PB screws will secure that together. Helps if you put it in the right way up, which is this way. It's going to be difficult to get a screw in there, I think. Get one in that side. Just about, I think. Get one in that side. So we'll get that tightened up like that. And then we've got another hinge. And that's going to go this way, apparently. So that's going to go in there like that. And we've got these larger PM screws, silver screws. And same principle, we've got the spring washer, like so. And that's going to go in there. We've got 4 of those to do. So that's looking like that. And that is also do in that stage. So we move on to issue 38, and we're still doing more of the saber-tooth tiger. And as you can see, we're actually doing a bit more assembly for that as well. So starting with this piece, we have this one going in, this way around. And we have 2 PP screws to hold that in place. And then with that in place, we need to take this piece. And again, we've got this hexagonal hole, and we're going to just push our arm, or whatever it is, hinge in like so. And we've got that arm like that. We're then going to take this piece from the last stage. We're going to take our saber-tooth head. Right, so this is not making sense, because we've got the flat side here, but we've got that side there. So I've probably put that hinge in the wrong way around, haven't I? So easily fixed. We can flip that around. I'm sure you're probably all screaming at the screen when you saw me do that, but an easy fix, which is good. So we push that one back in like that, and then this is going to go into this point here, like that. Going to then follow that up. And again, I think I've done the same thing with this one. I've put this one the wrong way around. So that should go in this way. Like that. And then with it this way around, that's going to slot in this hole. So I'm just going to look for that to come out of that hole there. We have this lower piece. That's just going to sit in like that. And then we have this piece that's going to slot in just like that. And that is also do in that stage. And as I say, we're moving on to pterodactyl now, so that I think that's going to be where we leave it. Stage 39. Okay, saber-tooth tiger's chest, but that looks like pterodactyl bits, but maybe I'm wrong. Okay, so it looks like we're carrying on with the saber-tooth, putting the legs on, it looks like. So we're not actually doing, I think that is, I'm sure that's pterodactyl piece. So potentially we're not doing anything with the parts we supplied apart from these, it looks like. So apart from the hinge, we could have carried on with this as we were, but it is what it is, so we will continue on. Like so. So, very small pack of parts, but as you can probably hear, this is metal. That's amazing, that's metal. But that's going to be the front piece of the pterodactyl. Bottom piece, or depending on which way you look at it, front piece of Megazord. Right, so we've got more screws than anything else in this pack. So, we'll bring over our saber tooth, as we did before. We've got this piece, and we're going to start off with that going in just like that. And using these larger PM screws and the spring washers, you get 4 of those in and secure this in place. So that's those 4 in like that. Now this is the point where we're going to actually close up the saber-tooth tiger. And that's just going to line up there. Obviously we've got these 2 loose parts here that we just need to make sure they go in correctly and line up like that. So just make sure everything looks right. So we've got that bit coming out of there. These panels are in place as well. Now I need 2 PB screws to hold that in place. Now they look to be the black ones in this case. So just 2 screws going in here. And then we've got 2 more screws going in here. One there. And one just there. And then going to hide those screw holes with this panel. And that's just a push fit, like so. Now, we actually need the legs for this. So, not seen these for a little while, but they're the legs. So, we're going to start off on this side. Now, I did just pop those covers in place, just gently, just so they weren't lost. So, I just pop those back out. And this leg is just going to sit. So you need to make sure that it goes the right way around. But it's going to go just like that, with this red piece facing down this way. And we're going to use the PM screws and the washers. Again, got 4 of those to do. And you can hopefully just see down on the top camera that you just need to place them through the hole here. And get those screwed in. So last one just going in there. Again, make sure they're all nice and tight. And then we'll pop the cover on that one. Right, so cover pushed on to that one. Going to do the exact same thing for this leg. So again, making sure that we have that red piece facing down that way. And we've got 4 of these screws to hold that one in as well. So last screw on that one. And again, just going to go back and make sure they're all fully tightened. Like that. And then just finish off with the cover going on top. And that is what our saber-tooth tiger is looking like. Looks absolutely brilliant. And huge as well. We'll see eventually we'll have that fold flat like that. And the feet, I believe, will go something like this. And that's effectively the foot of the Megazord. So, a foot. It's huge. But that is going to look really, really good. I think actually the paws might even go like that actually when it's on the ground. So I think it's going to be more like that as a foot. But certainly impressive. Right, so we've only got 2 more stages to go. So we've got this one, 40, and as you can see, we have pterodactyl parts. I'm putting in that front section, it looks like. Right, so we got the parts from this stage. Obviously, we haven't seen this for quite some time. I think, what, stage 1 or 2 we had this? So, taking the part we had from the previous issue, that's going to sit in just there. And then we're going to secure that from the back using a PWN screw. It looks like we've only got these silver screws in this pack. So, flipping that over. And the second one just going in there. So that's that one. It is marked with an L, I just noticed. So that tells you it's the left one. We then have this centerpiece going in just like that. And again, it's just going to be the silver screws. We've got 4 of those in this one. Now, you notice I'm not putting it down because obviously this is very nice and shiny. I should really get my partware upgrades mat to protect it, but just holding it in my hand should be sufficient. That's the 4th one. And then I'm going to finish off this with this one. Should have put this one in first. Okay, it went in okay. Again, 2 screws will hold this one in place. And the very final one just in there. So that's what that is looking like. Look absolutely lovely. It's going to need a polish with my fingerprints over it. Now I'll just gently put that down there for the moment. We've got these 2 plastic parts. And that's just going to sit in like so. It's going to sit over these 2 lugs here. So just push those over like that. Same for this side. Now I've not been asked to secure those with any screws. So that is all there is to do in that stage. So the very last stage in this build pack, and it has been an absolutely mammoth build pack, absolutely brilliant looking. We actually have the pterodactyl's head. So that looks amazing. Now, I didn't realise that, I thought this one didn't have electronics, but as you can see, it does. And we're going to actually be mounting it as well. So that's what we'll have at the end of it. Right, so here are our parts, and as you can see, I have brought up my part upgrades mat just because I really don't want to scratch any of that. Oh, that's just fallen out. Place that back in. Right, so the very first thing we're going to be doing is taking this piece and this piece. Now we've only got one type of screw in this one, which is the PB screws. Take our body. We're going to take this piece, and that's going to slot in like so. Then going to take this piece, and that's going to sit over the top like that. And then we've got two PB screws that's going to hold that in place. Not securing anything to these two holes at the moment, so it's just held in by this. And with that in, we're then going to turn our attention to this piece and our circuit. So we've got this. Now, we can just test this really quickly. You can see that is working. So that's brilliant. So we can assemble this, safe in the knowledge that this works. So this is going to go this way around. And take our PP screw and secure it through the hole. Again, just tight enough that it's not going to wobble around, but not so tight you're going to damage the circuit board. I'm going to take the head of our pterodactyl, looking just like that. Looks absolutely fantastic. We're going to take our eyes for the pterodactyl. And we're going to place those in like so. 1. And 2. So with that in there like so, we're going to take our circuit board, and that's just going to place over the top like that. Again, 2 PB screws will hold that in place. Also be wary of where this cable lands. You want to make sure that it doesn't go over the top of either of those screw posts. So that's our pterodactyl head. Right, so with those 2 screws now securing that in place, we've got the lights in there and the eyes. Got the cable just trailing out the back of that little gap that you can see there. I have noticed that I missed off this piece from the last bit, which is just a case of pushing that one in. So just like that. So now we need to move on to the pterodactyl's neck. Now, we do have these marked left and right. Now, the left one is the interesting one because we've got a gap just here and just here. Now, that gap is to have this cable run down along it. And it's going to go this way up. And our cable is basically just going to run through there like so. Now, we also have these clear pieces, and they're just going to sit in here. We're we've got a longer one and a smaller one. Looks like the longer one is going to go into this gap here. Now, we obviously used these previously. These obviously just so that we can position the neck, etc. So give it a little bit of resistance. So they're going to sit in like so. Now, this is going to be the challenging bit where we've got to sandwich all this together, not trap that wire so we can move it around, and get it all into position. So let's see what we can do. So let's pop that in there, and then hopefully I've got it this far away, just hoping that I can potentially pull the cable back through if need be. So push that in like so. So we've got to try and get these clear rubber bits to conform to their partner hole as well. Might be able to partly do this without that cable being in the way, actually. Right, so that's going to have to come down through there. So let's try and trap that cable in like so. I think that's gone okay. Just try and wiggle the cable so it's not stuck. With any luck. Well, I think I've managed it. Right, so we've got that pushed together. Cable does feel like it's stuck now, which is annoying. Let's see if I can just loosen it a little bit. Don't know where it's stuck. Right, so I've managed to loosen that cable. Brilliant. So with that in like so, we need it to go this way around. And that's going to sit in like that. So I've got a cable, we've got the cable going round like that. Let's just twist that way. That's better. It's not going to make much difference if the cable's twisted through the body of this. We just obviously want to make sure there's enough slack for it to bend and fold. Right, we're going to secure that in place with the smaller of the two bars. So we'll just try and get that wiggled and lined up. I think I'm just going to use the tip of my screwdriver to try and push that in place. Just need to make sure that's lined up properly. And then it will go in. Like so. So that looks pretty good. Next up, we have this piece. And that's going to sit like that. Yeah, that's going to sit like that. And then we've got this bar that's going to go through the whole lot to hold it in place. Again, just try and get it lined up. Might need a pair of pliers to push that one in. Just need to give it a bit of a wiggle to make sure it lines up properly with the other side. There it goes. So we've got that one pushed in. I'm just going to use the tip of my screwdriver to see if I can push that in any further. That's probably about as good as it's going to get. So we can now position that head where we want, which is brilliant. We're now mounting this, I believe. I say mounting, it doesn't look like we're actually securing it with anything, so that's just going to sit like so. And that's the last bit of this stage and the last bit of that build pack. But that is looking absolutely fantastic. So we've got part of pterodactyl looking really, really good like that. We have our saber-toothed tiger looking just like that. Try and work out which way you should be facing. Like that. So looking really, really good. So they will go down like that. And then obviously we have the absolute beast of Tyrannosaurus Rex. Looking absolutely fantastic. Thank you very much for watching. I do hope you enjoyed that video. If you did, please remember to hit the like button below and give us a massive thumbs up. So, what an absolutely brilliant build pack. Certainly made some progress with our Zords here. Now, I know I didn't do a close-up comparison of the toy like I've done previously, but just look at the sheer scale. That's the toy, this is the model. The T-Rex isn't even fully built, and it's almost as tall as the model, as the toy. Obviously, it is on a cushion a little bit, so it's got a little bit of extra height, but it's close enough to almost being the same height as the model or the toy, just that part. But I have to say, it does look absolutely fantastic. Looks absolutely lovely. And along with that, obviously, we've made progress with our pterodactyl as well. Looking absolutely fantastic. And we've also got those shiny bits on the front there now. And then also we've made quite a bit of progress with our saber-toothed tiger. Oh, we've pretty much got half a tiger now, which is looking great as well. If you want to get this for yourself, check out the links in the description below. I'm sure it's still currently available, and I think there are still options where you could build the entire pack in one go. So you can get the whole thing in one go. I don't know if they're still doing subscription or whether they've got both options available. But just check out the links below, and that'll soon tell you when you go over to FanHome's website. If you want to see more of how this one progresses or anything else that goes on the channel, please do remember to hit the subscribe button and ding the bell for notifications. That way you won't miss out on future videos. Until next time, I'll see you around. Cheers.